The judge in the It Ends With Us case just denied Blake Lively. But does Ryan Reynolds have a smoking gun that he's been holding out on?
What's good, guys? Today we're diving into some absolutely wild news about Blake Lively, because what just happened in court has completely changed everything. We're talking about a judge's decision that not only shocked Blake, but has her throwing absolute fits behind the scenes. Listen, when I tell you this ruling came out of nowhere and hit different, I mean it. This isn't just another celebrity legal drama. This is the kind of decision that could end someone's entire career. And Blake's reaction? Let's just say it's showing everyone who she really is when things don't go her way. Before we get into all this tea, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story is developing faster than Blake's PR team can spin it. And trust me, what I'm about to share is going to make you see this whole situation in a completely different light. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a judge completely shut down a celebrity's case like this? The answer is going to shock you. Let's break down exactly what happened in that courtroom, because this judge didn't just dismiss Blake's case, they absolutely demolished it. And the way they did it. That's what's got everyone talking. First off, the judge straight up said, there's no case here. Not maybe there's a case, or come back with more evidence. They basically looked at everything Blake's team presented and said, nope, this ain't it. That's the kind of dismissal that leaves lawyers scrambling and PR teams working overtime. But here's where it gets really interesting. The judge's decision included this powerful piece about jury instructions. Basically, if they can prove Blake lied about just one single thing in her testimony, the jury can throw out everything she said. Everything. That's not just a legal setback, that's a complete nightmare for someone trying to control their narrative. Think about what this means for Blake. She spent months carefully crafting this image of herself as the victim, right? She's been doing interviews, making statements, positioning herself as the wronged party. And now, one proven lie could make all of that collapse like a house of cards. The way the legal experts are talking about this decision tells you everything you need to know. They're saying this isn't just unusual, it's the kind of ruling that shows the judge saw through all the PR spin and celebrity status. Now, let's talk about Blake's reaction, because what happened after this ruling is absolutely wild. We're not just talking about normal disappointment here, we're talking about full-on tantrum mode that's got even her closest allies concerned. According to sources who were there, Blake completely lost it when she heard the decision. We're talking about the kind of meltdown that makes diva stories look tame. She wasn't just angry, she was in complete disbelief that someone would dare to rule against her. That's the kind of entitled reaction that tells you everything about how she views herself. Her team tried to contain the situation, but here's what's really telling: Blake wouldn't listen to anyone. Not her lawyers, not her PR people, nobody. She was demanding appeals, threatening to expose people, making all kinds of wild claims. It's like watching someone who's never heard the word.
Planet, I am Andy Signor with some updates for you. Man, Blake Lively just got denied. Pretty rough. I didn't see that coming, I gotta be honest. Just to recap before we get to the judge's verdict to explain what happened here.
No, suddenly face reality. What's really fascinating is how quickly she switched from playing the composed victim to showing her true colors. All that careful image management? Gone in an instant. The mask slipped, and what was underneath wasn't pretty. We're talking about someone who's used to controlling every narrative suddenly realizing she can't control this one. And let's talk about how she treated her own team during this meltdown. The way she was speaking to her lawyers, the demands she was making of her PR people. That's the kind of conduct that makes people quit on the spot. Let's dive into what happened next, because Blake's PR team is in absolute crisis mode right now. And when I tell you they're failing spectacularly at damage control, I mean they're making everything worse. First off, they hired this ex-CIA guy, Nick Shapiro. Now, that move alone is raising serious eyebrows. Because let's be real, when you bring in someone who used to manage crisis PR for the CIA, you're not just trying to manage your image anymore. You're trying to manipulate the entire narrative. But here's where it gets really interesting. Shapiro's background is actually making things worse. People started digging into his history at Airbnb, where he ran this thing called the Black Box Team. They spent $50 million a year covering up serious incidents. We're talking about the kind of stuff that makes people question your entire moral compass. The way they're trying to spin this court decision is particularly fascinating. They're putting out these statements about how the ruling is just one step in the process and how they're confident in their position. But nobody's buying it anymore. It's like watching someone try to sell sunscreen during a hurricane. What's really telling is how they're handling social media. They're trying to flood the zone with positive stories about Blake, but it's backfiring completely. Every time they post something nice, people are responding with clips from the court documents. It's like watching a PR team bring a water pistol to a forest fire. And let's talk about these sources close to Blake who keep talking to the media. The stories they're putting out are so obviously manufactured that they're actually making Blake look worse. Let's talk about what's happening on social media, because Blake's empire is literally crumbling in real time. The numbers don't lie.
She requested more time. She's apparently trying to amend her complaint. We're waiting to see who else she's going to include on that complaint. She's implied there's going to be more people. We assume it's the Jed Wallace character. Many suspect it could be Brian Friedman.
And what we're seeing is absolutely unprecedented. In just the last few months, her follower count has taken a nosedive that would make stock market crashes look gentle. We're not talking about a few thousand unfollows here. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of people jumping ship. That's the kind of mass exodus that keeps PR teams up at night. But it's not just about the numbers. The quality of engagement she's getting has completely changed. Every post, every story, every little thing she puts out there is getting flooded with comments about the court case. People are sharing screenshots of the judge's decision, posting clips of her previous statements that contradict each other. It's like watching someone's carefully curated image get dismantled in real time. What's really fascinating is how her celebrity friends are responding. Notice how quiet they've all gotten. All those people who used to comment on every single post, who jumped to her defense at the slightest criticism, they're suddenly nowhere to be found. That's not just coincidence, that's people protecting their own brands from a sinking ship. And let's talk about these sponsored deals she had lined up. Brands are quietly backing away faster than teenagers at a parent dance. Nobody wants to be associated with someone who just got called out by a judge for potentially lying under oath. The way her team is trying to handle this social media crisis is making everything worse too. They're deleting comments, blocking accounts, trying to control the narrative. But in 2025, that kind of approach just makes you look guilty. Let's dive into how this is affecting Blake's standing in Hollywood, because this judge's decision isn't just damaging her social media presence, it's completely reshaping her career prospects. First off, let's talk about these movie deals she had lined up. Sources are saying that multiple projects are now under review. That's Hollywood code for we're trying to figure out how to get out of this contract without getting sued. When studios start using that kind of language, you know things are serious. What's really interesting is how casting directors are responding to all this. One insider actually said, and I'm quoting here, "Nobody wants to be the one who cast Blake Lively right after a judge basically called her dishonest." That's the kind of industry blacklist that doesn't need to be official to be effective. And let's talk about her production company. Remember all those projects she announced? All those books she optioned? Notice how there haven't been any updates lately. That's because investors are getting nervous. Nobody wants to put money into projects led by someone who just got their credibility completely demolished in court. The way other actors are distancing themselves is particularly telling. People who were practically begging to work with her 6 months ago are suddenly too busy or exploring other opportunities. In Hollywood speaks, that's like watching rats abandon a sinking ship in real time. Even her team at WME is struggling to handle this situation. When your own agents start having trouble selling you to studios, that's when you know you've got a serious problem on your hands. Let's break down something that nobody's really talking about.
They're done, and it's no wonder everyone avoided them like the plague.
TMZ just dropped a bomb on Blake Lively.
The bigger legal implications of this judge's decision. Because this isn't just about one case getting dismissed, it's about setting a precedent that could change everything. First off, let's talk about what this means for future cases. The judge didn't just dismiss Blake's claims. They set up this situation where any proven lie could invalidate her entire testimony. That's the kind of legal precedent that makes lawyers nervous, especially when their client is a celebrity used to saying whatever they want. What's really fascinating is how this could affect other celebrity lawsuits. Think about it. This judge basically said being famous doesn't give you special treatment in court. They looked at all the PR spin, all the carefully crafted statements, and said, nope, we're going to focus on the facts. The way this ruling addresses jury instructions is particularly interesting. It's basically telling future juries that if they catch a celebrity in one lie, they can assume everything else they said might be a lie too. That's not just a legal technicality, that's a complete game changer for how these cases work. And let's talk about how this affects Blake's future legal options. Any lawyer looking at this case is going to think twice before taking her on as a client, because now there's this public record of a judge essentially questioning her credibility. That's the kind of legal red flag that doesn't just go away. Even her current legal team is struggling to figure out what to do next. They can appeal, sure, but that might just make things worse. Sometimes when you're in a hole, the best thing to do is stop digging. Let's talk about something that's becoming really obvious. The personal toll this is taking on Blake. Because behind all the PR spin and legal drama, we're watching someone's carefully constructed world fall apart. The way she's been acting in public lately tells us everything we need to know. At recent events, people have noticed this complete shift in her demeanor. She's not just stressed. She's showing signs of someone who's losing control of their narrative for the first time ever.
But that doesn't mean the news hasn't stopped. Earlier, I reported, I think I was the first to report on Blake Lively speaking out for the first time.
That confident, always camera-ready persona. It's cracking. What's really telling is how this is affecting her relationships in the industry. Remember all those famous friendships she used to flaunt? Those Instagram posts with other celebrities? That's all disappeared. When you're used to being Hollywood's golden girl, that kind of isolation hits different. And let's talk about her business ventures. Rhode Skincare was supposed to be this huge success story, right? But now retailers are getting nervous. When your brand is built entirely on your personal image, and that image takes a hit like this, everything starts to crumble. The way she's handling public appearances now is particularly interesting. She's still trying to maintain this image of being unbothered, but anyone watching closely can see it's all an act. At the South by Southwest Festival, witnesses said she was practically jumping out of her skin anytime someone mentioned the court case. Even her interactions with fans have changed. She used to be known for being super engaging and friendly at events. Now, she's keeping her distance, staying controlled, like someone who's afraid of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Let's dive into what people in Hollywood are really saying behind closed doors, because the industry gossip about this situation is absolutely wild, and what we're hearing tells us this is way bigger than just one court decision. First off, directors who've worked with Blake in the past are starting to talk. They're sharing stories about how she would try to control every aspect of production, from script changes to marketing decisions. One director, who wanted to stay anonymous, said working with her was like dealing with someone who thinks they're running the studio. What's really interesting is how crew members are coming forward. Now too, we're hearing stories about her demands on set, her treatment of support staff, the way she tried to override creative decisions. It's like once the judge opened the door, everyone felt safe enough to start sharing their experiences. The way other actresses are responding is particularly telling.
One of the key allegations in her complaint against Justin Baldoni was as follows, okay, from paragraph 48 of her complaint.
You know how Hollywood usually has this unwritten rule about supporting each other? Well, that's gone out the window. Instead, we're hearing about all these times Blake tried to push other women out of roles or take control of projects that weren't hers. And let's talk about the executives who've dealt with her. They're saying this court decision just confirmed what they already knew, that she's someone who thinks rules don't apply to her. One studio exec actually said, "This is karma catching up in real time." The conversations happening in talent agencies are even more revealing. Agents are literally warning their clients about getting involved in any projects connected to Blake. That's not just career damage. That's full-on industry exile. Listen, we need to wrap this up by talking about what all this means for the future. Because this judge's decision isn't just affecting Blake Lively, it's changing how Hollywood operates on a fundamental level. Think about it, we're watching someone who seemed untouchable get completely exposed by the legal system. This isn't just about one case or one ruling. It's about accountability finally catching up with celebrity privilege, when a judge can look at all your PR spin, all your carefully crafted statements, and still say, nope, this isn't flying. That's a game changer. What's really fascinating is how this is affecting other celebrities. You can bet everyone in Hollywood is watching this situation and taking notes. Because if Blake Lively, with all her connections and resources, can't control her narrative anymore, what does that mean for everyone else? The way the industry is responding to this tells us everything we need to know about where things are heading. Studios are adding new clauses to contracts, talent agencies are rethinking how they handle difficult clients, and PR teams are completely revamping their crisis management strategies. Before we wrap this up, drop a comment below with your thoughts on all this. Do you think Blake can recover from this? Will other celebrities learn from her mistakes? And most importantly, do you think this marks the beginning of real change in how Hollywood handles accountability? If you're finding these deep dives valuable, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're going to keep following this story because something tells me we haven't seen the last of the fallout. Remember, sometimes the biggest lessons in Hollywood come from watching someone's carefully built empire crumble in real time. Stay informed, stay critical, and I'll catch you in the next video.